it's George from TeachMeFashion. In today's tutorial, I'm excited to share with you how to sew the Jessica pattern. The Jessica pattern is an oversized raw edge singlet, which is a great sewing project for all home sewers, especially beginners. You can find the pattern, material and equipment in below description. But before we get started, I just want to say thank you to the team down at Rathdown Fabric and Remnants for providing me with the fabric to sew in this tutorial today. Let's get sewing. Place your fabric wrong sides together and pin your shoulder and side seams together. These seams are going to be French seams. Before you start sewing, test your sewing machine to make sure that the stitch length is correct for your fabric. For both your shoulder and side seams, the seam needs to be a 1 centimetre seam allowance. For the French seam to be small and neat, you need to cut back your seam allowance you just sewn. Cut right back until the stitching line. Using your thumb and forefinger, roll your seam, making sure that all the seam allowance is pushed up and ready for you to pin, and make sure that you catch your seam allowance on the inside so when you sew that it doesn't show when you turn it over. Now you're going to be finishing the French seam, so you will need to sew a 0.5 of a centimetre seam allowance or a foot width apart seam, making sure that you encase the first seam allowance. Once you finish as well, make sure to cut all the loose threads so that your garment is nice and clean so you can take up your hem and finish your garment. You're nearly there, you're at the last stage, so you don't have to take up your hem. You can also leave this as a raw edge as well. Take up your hem 1.5 of a centimetre or 5/8 of an inch, making sure that you use your measuring tape and pin along before you start to sew your hem up. When you sew up your hem, make sure that you have your foot right up to the edge of your fabric. Make sure to take your time while sewing up the hem, as your fabric can slip and your hem won't be caught in your stitch. If you liked this tutorial, don't forget to subscribe and stay social with us. All details for this pattern are in the description below.